Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Air Kitty. Alright, so I'm doing a vlog style kind of video. So if these aren't your thing, you can just go ahead and skip this one. I'm not gonna be offended. But I did want to kind of talk about an experience I had just recently had, and that experience was basically surviving COVID. I am just recently recovering from it now. And this isn't necessarily like my PSA to been like, go get vaccinated or like, COVID's bad. I mean, it is absolutely like horrendous. I just wanted to share it for no other reason than the fact that it was an experience I went through, and I never know what these experiences might give to people, whether they comment about it or not. And I'm always kind of that believer of, you know, what may seem like nothing to me may seem like a big deal to someone else, and someone else may stumble upon this and glean some wisdom from it. So it's better just to put the knowledge out there than to, I guess, just keep it to myself. So, December 7th, I started experiencing symptoms that were kind of more like common cold like, and obviously it's December, so the common cold, the flu is going around, it's making its rounds. At first I was confident that it was just the common cold, that it wasn't COVID, because it wasn't the worst experience I had been through. It was a little bit more draining than a regular cold, but I was like kind of attributing that to the fact that I'm older now, so maybe my body was having a harder time handling or, you know, uh, being able to deal with having a cold. Because the last time I had gotten a cold was years and years and years ago. Uh, so it was one of those things where I wasn't really sure how that was gonna affect me. But regardless of how I felt, even if I felt like it was just a cold, I was like, it still could be COVID. I don't know. So I did my due diligence and I quarantined and I didn't go out anywhere with anybody. And I literally just didn't leave my apartment for 10 days, pretty much. But I have to say that this experience was very, very scary. I am actually fully vaccinated. I do not have the booster yet, but I am fully vaccinated with Moderna, which, as far as we know of from research, it was the most effective vaccine by itself without the booster, against the regular strain of COVID as well as the Delta variant of COVID. And so, I was actually around the time I got symptoms, or right before I got symptoms, I actually was looking into getting a booster shot. But obviously, COVID ruined that for me. Thanks, COVID. Yeah, I will say right now that if you haven't gotten the booster, definitely go get it. Just because a couple of the things that I noticed when I had COVID was, thankfully because I was vaccinated, I was spared from a lot of the devastation that COVID can cause. Hopefully, and obviously I'm not gonna know until like probably years later, because we still don't know a lot about COVID in general when you compare it to other viruses like influenza. Like, we know enough to know that it is devastating. There have been people that are reporting who got COVID back in 2020 who, still are experiencing some lingering symptoms from that, as well as the fact of they have permanent lung damage now. Because of COVID, it has permanently damaged their lungs. So I'm, hopeful that because I was vaccinated and because I did everything I could to take care of myself while I was, while I had COVID, that I was spared a lot of that damage. But what actually solidified the fact that it was COVID for me, it was funny because it wasn't the fact that I got a test. I actually knew prior that it was COVID, because one of the things was that, so obviously when you're sick, when you're stuffed up, you can't smell anything, which also means you kind of can't taste anything. So I didn't think much of that. It wasn't until like day 5 or 6 when my nostrils started clearing up and I could actually smell out of them, like I could breathe finally out of them. And I realized I couldn't smell anything. Like, I had hand sanitizer, you know, like how hand sanitizer is a really strong smell, like you cannot not smell this thing. I had hand sanitizer. I was holding it literally this close to my face, and I still couldn't smell it. My nose registered that it was hand sanitizer because the strong alcohol smell, like, you know how it kind of burns the inside of your nostrils a little bit, like it causes that burning sensation a little bit, like, ooh, that's strong. That is like, that's all that happened, but I couldn't smell the alcohol in the hand sanitizer. I like sprayed Febreze everywhere, tried to smell that. I couldn't. I legit could not smell anything. It was awful. And let me tell you how sorry of an experience it is when you can't smell anything. God bless my mom who has done this for a year, because that was one of the lingering symptoms she had when she got COVID, was that she couldn't smell anything. I only dealt with this for like maybe like a couple days. My smell is coming back, thankfully. I am a little stuffed up still. Still a little congested in my nasal area, but for the most part it's gone, and I am able to smell and therefore taste things. But oh my god, it was such a horrible experience. If you are, get the vaccine for nothing else if you want, but for the fact to smell and be able to enjoy food. I I literally was miserable for like the last like 6 days, because obviously, because at first, like, I was sick, I was congested, so I couldn't taste anything anyways. But do you know how depressing it is that I couldn't taste chicken nuggets? Do you know how depressing that is? What's the point of living if I can't enjoy and taste chicken nuggets? Doggone it. So that was one of the most awful experiences out of the whole thing for me, was just the fact that I couldn't smell. But again, thankfully, because my hope is that because I was vaccinated, that there wasn't any permanent damage to my olfactory functions. So I am able, that I will get that function to be able to fully smell and taste things again within a couple days to a couple weeks. And that's the typical range of when people are reporting when they get that back. But the other scary thing, and the thing that also was pretty devastating, and this is kind of, I guess, a little bit more serious, is the fact of, so literally, I am not kidding you, I'm not exaggerating, I am not being dramatic, that literally almost every other day I was worrying that I was having organ failure at some point. So I actually didn't have the problem of having a fever on most days. I had the problem of my temperature dropped. So obviously, one of the things that people worry about is the fact of, if your temperature drops, that could mean that you have hypothermia. So typically, if your temperature drops below 96 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm not sure what that is converted into Celsius. But if that drops below 96 degrees Fahrenheit, that means that you are probably going through hypothermia and you need to go to a hospital immediately, because you are like literally within probably hours to days of dying. But another thing that I found out about, that I was like, oh shoot, I need to be careful of, and I was constantly taking my temperature for this, was that if your temperature reaches anywhere in like the lower 96-degree range, so we'll say, I'm not a doctor, obviously, don't take my word for gospel, but just take it as more like something to think about, I guess. Because there are probably plenty of other things that a doctor could point out and say, nope, if your temperature reaches below this degree range, it could be this. But one of the big things that kept popping up for me when I was looking into it was that if your temperature kind of falls anywhere below, we'll say like 96.5 degrees, that means your body could be going into sepsis shock. And sepsis shock is really bad. If you don't know what sepsis is, basically, and how I read it, with sepsis is when your body has an infection, a viral infection, like COVID. But instead of your immune system attacking the virus, like the cells that have the virus and killing those off, it's actually killing off cells that are to organs. So literally your body just starts shutting down. And one of the main signs for that, they said obviously, is that, you're cold, you experience cold-like symptoms, and your body temperature falls below like 96, or like is around 96 degrees or lower. I freaked out. I completely freaked out every single time like my temperature fell anywhere below, like at times like below 97% or 97 degrees. It never fell below like 96.8. And I was usually able to bring it back up again. A lot of times it was because my apartment was too cold. Coupled with the fact that I was dealing with COVID. But it was really bad. Like I wasn't having the problem of keeping my body temperature down. I was having the problem of keeping my body temperature up. And it was really, really scary because for me, it was a thing of, because my boyfriend Jeffrey is a nurse, he does keep me up to date about the health of the world and some things to look out for. And I will say this, that obviously if you are having a medical emergency, yes, go to a hospital. But it's like right now with COVID and it being still so prevalent, and even with the now recently found out about Omicron virus being spotted in America, it's one of those things where like the hospital is the last place you want to be right now. If you can save yourself a trip from the hospital at this moment, it's like you absolutely want to. And for me, during this whole time when I had COVID, that was the thing I kind of kept in mind, I was like, it's better that I stay home and not go to the hospital for every little medical emergency or every little thing that I'm scared about medically. Because while yes, it is one of those things where it's like, yes, it's better to be safe than sorry, the problem is that obviously hospitals are obviously seeing overcrowding again. So they're not able to care for a lot of patients. But on top of that, one of the other things too is obviously when you get sick, where do people think to go first to deal with that sickness? The hospital. So that means that obviously a lot of people with COVID are now sitting in the hospital. And while hospitals are doing their best to, try to keep those people isolated, to not have them affect other patients, it's still a breeding ground for the COVID, basically. So that's one of the many reasons why that, give your medical personnel, doctors, nurses, everybody, EMTs, every single medical personnel out there, give them some slack and, thank them for everything that they're doing, because honestly, they are putting themselves right there out on the front lines. Like I said, my boyfriend Jeffrey, is a nurse, so he is putting himself right out there in the front lines. And I am proud and scared of the work he does every single day. He works his butt off doing so much. And, he does so much to protect himself from COVID. I don't deserve him. I absolutely don't deserve him. But getting back on track with everything. But yeah, like it was just a thing of I was so scared about like if I was gonna need to go to the hospital for whatever reason, because another thing that had happened was actually just a couple nights ago. So what was usually happening after about the first 3 days was that I would be okay for a day and I'd actually be able to work. I work from home, so I'd be able to open up my laptop and be able to actually work and be with my coworkers. But then like the next day something would happen and I'd be so drained and so tired that literally I could not like sit through 2 hours of work without being like, I'm gonna just shut down in a moment, or like something else happening. So the thing that actually happened at one point that actually caused me to call out of work for that day was so I was completely fine. I thought I was recovering. And randomly at 3 o'clock in the morning, I started having shakes. It was like, and it was bad shakes. It was like dehydration kind of shakes. Like I was dehydrated. I started feeling really sick and nauseous, and I was really scared because I was like, I couldn't stop. I literally called my mom at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh my god, mom, I think I'm dying. I think I need to go to the hospital. I think my kidneys failed. And while obviously I can look back at it now and laugh at it a little bit because it's like it sounds a little overdramatic, at the time it was not. Like I literally was terrified that like my kidneys had failed because one of the main things is that obviously I drink a lot of soda. So it would not be out of the realm of possibilities that my kidneys just stopped one day. And that's literally what I thought was happening, was the fact of I thought all my bad habits had caught up to me. And with being sick on top of that, my body just couldn't handle it and just my kidneys went. Thankfully, obviously, that is not the case. I did not have to go to the hospital at all. My mom actually literally was like, Michaela, I don't think your kidneys are failing. I think you just have COVID. Like that sounds a lot like COVID. And so obviously the next day I took a test and it did come back positive. So, woohoo. So yeah, I mean, that's just some of my experience. And I mean, literally, if you get COVID, my heart really goes out to you. Like, it is an awful experience. For those of you that went through COVID before we even had the vaccine, like people like my mom who had gotten it, like, oh my god, like, you are stronger people for it, to be honest. I hated this experience. I never want to do this again. I have so much anxiety from this because legitimately for like the last couple nights I had anxiety that something was going to happen and I wasn't going to wake up the next morning, and I just kept thinking also about like the people that I was going to leave behind, and the people that I hadn't wouldn't have had the opportunity to say the things I need to say to them. I was really, it was that bad for me, like. And again, I know that sounds so cheesy, so corny. That sounds like, oh, you're overreacting. It's like, but it's legitimately like I had no energy to do anything. I remember that there was like a couple days where like I was like my body was going through different sensations that I had never experienced before, that I literally just thought, "Oh my god, what if today's the day? What if today's the day that I just go?" And I never get to see my family again, or my friends, or anything, and I don't get to say goodbye or anything like that. And that is a very real thing, especially for people that have COVID, because on top of that, as far as I knew of, I'm not immunocompromised. I am a healthy individual. But that does not mean that I couldn't be immunocompromised to something. And I think probably the worst way to find out that you're immunocompromised is if you were to find out that, you have COVID and it nearly kills you. If you still have any reserves about the whole idea about getting COVID, or not getting COVID, but getting the COVID vaccine, don't get COVID. Even if the likelihood is that you'll survive through it, it's kind of like the idea of getting influenza or the cold. 90% of people will survive it, but it's just an awful experience to have regardless. And if you can find a way to just not get it at all, do that. Because yeah, like this literally left me drained, completely drained of energy. I had no ambitions to do anything. It was even at times too much energy to even watch YouTube. Like, I would watch literally, like, maybe, like, one video at times, like, one or two videos, and I would just feel drained and tired and sick. And I'd be like, I need to lie down. I need to take a nap or something. Like, I had no ambitions to do anything. But yes, so yes, get yourself vaccinated if you haven't been vaccinated yet. If you are vaccinated and you do have the opportunity to get the booster, do your best to get the booster. I know right now it's probably gonna be a little difficult because people are still like, it's probably like an overflow of people right now just trying to get the booster shot. But yeah, and if you have any reserves about it, like, I don't know, it's still new, these companies are putting out research. That's actually how I knew which one to get for myself, the Moderna one. At the time when we were looking at vaccines, it was just Pfizer and Moderna that had just come out. Johnson & Johnson hadn't come out yet. It had just come out. So the research wasn't quite there. It wasn't quite as extensive, I believe. I did look into both Pfizer and Moderna and like their testing methods and what they did, and I looked at all the studies and everything that they had performed. And that is what solidified it for me to say, yes, this is safe. This is, this has been properly tested. Obviously, nothing is 100%, as they did show in those studies. Obviously, there were some people that were affected by the vaccine, which is very, very sad. And to those people, obviously, to those that lost those individuals, I severely am apologetic about it, in the sense that it's awful, and I'm so sorry. But this is a time, and this is kind of a place where the benefits greatly outweigh the risks. And we have had many times where we've taken these risks and they have proven to be positive. You think about it, technically, for all of us to take the flu shot, we technically have taken that risk every single year too. Because every single year they just make their best guess upon which strains are going to hit that flu season. They're not always right. But yet we still get the vaccine, we still take it because, it's better than getting influenza. It's better than getting those strains that are really, really bad. As well as the fact that, ain't nobody got time to be getting the cold and the influenza around here. Like, seriously. Like, nobody wants that. And I know for me, like, after this, I certainly don't want it. Being sick sucks. But obviously, like, another great example is, like, the polio vaccine. There were a lot of people that had their reserves when that came out, but people still lined up for miles and miles. Because, I'm not gonna lie, right now, if somebody had told me, like, this experience, like, if somebody was like, you can go through this experience of having COVID, or you could grow two heads. I've been like, you know what? I will grow two heads. Because, screw that experience that I just had. I just want to have the experience of being able to enjoy chicken nuggets again. There's no point in living if I can't enjoy chicken nuggets. Just no. But obviously, to each their own. I can't convince everybody that it's going to be completely safe, and I can't convince everybody that, to get it. I can only hope that, through experience, through my experience, me telling you my experience, maybe, hopefully, it will convince somebody out there to go get the vaccine and to tell them, like, literally how devastating this is. But also, I guess, to just try to confirm the whole idea of, like, how deadly and just dangerous this thing is, that, even influenza is not as harmless as we think of it. It still takes, I think the last number I saw was like 7,500,000 people a year worldwide. Like, I don't think COVID has taken that many people so far in 1 year, which is great. But it is still devastating to know that there are still that many people that didn't have the opportunity to live a full life. They did not have the opportunity to go through all the wonderful and uh, just enlightening life experiences that we all get to have. And I feel like for that right there is the reason why most people should get vaccinated, is the fact of not only one to help the next generation in fighting diseases and being able to, build their immune system, but also for the fact of, giving them the chance to be able to experience life, hopefully in a better, more positive way than we have. Because that is kind of the sad thing right now is I'm very apprehensive about the future, and I'm kind of glad that I don't have kids going, you know, into this stage of my life at the moment, simply because of the fact that it's like there are children out there that are not going to know the life that we had before. They're not going to know the freedoms that we had. Being able to go outside and not have to wear a mask, or not have to worry about, people being contagious with something that was, extremely deadly. And, the whole idea of like having to deal with like all these new regulations that we now have in place because of COVID and just everything. They're not going to know a life probably prior to lockdowns. They're going to be like little bubble boys and bubble girls. They're going to just be stuck inside. They're going to be like, "Mommy, what's the outside like?" And it's like, "It's a wonderful place, child. But unfortunately, you won't get to see it." But yeah, no. So if you can get your, children vaccinated, to get yourself vaccinated. And also for the other reason too, if you have pets at home. That was another thing that we saw with my mom when she got COVID, and how she actually knew she had COVID before she got tested and it came out positive, was that actually her dog, like for 3 days straight, actually just wasn't acting right. Obviously, as most dogs go, and, her dog Katie was still very young at the time. I think she was only like a year or two old. She runs around, she's hyper, she's all over the place. She's off the walls pretty much. But for 3 days straight, she was just lethargic. Like, she just did not move from the couch. And my mom actually, I remember her telling me and been like, "I think Katie has COVID." My mom had suspected that she had gotten it because she wasn't feeling well. And, obviously in the coming days she was getting tested. And then Katie started showing signs of not feeling well. So it's like one of those things, like, this can affect your pets as well. So if you have fur babies at home, get vaccinated for your fur babies. I know for me, and I've talked about this quite a bit, I feel like, especially with friends and family. But in the coming months, I want to get a cat for myself because I'm lonely and I need a friend. Being isolated in my apartment. But it's the thing of, I also want to make sure that I'm fully vaccinated, because I could end up with an elderly cat who, may not be able to fight off something as devastating as COVID-19. And I would hate to like have that moment of just being like, "Oh no, I lost a pet because of COVID." Like, I want to help a pet live a long life if they can, like, help them live the longest life that they can have and the happiest life that they can have. And I don't want their last moments on earth being like, "I got COVID." But yeah, I think I've rambled on enough. I just wanted to share my experience about, what it was like to have COVID, and even being completely vaccinated, and just kind of sharing, like, one, the importance of being vaccinated, but also on top of that, just how dangerous and scary it is to have COVID, to actually experience and have it. I know that for a lot of people, and I don't necessarily blame people, because, I I kind of have this mentality a little bit too before I had COVID. But, you think about it because, you're like, "Oh, I'm vaccinated, everything should be fine." It's like, yeah, vaccinated people are still getting it too, though. And the vaccine is not necessarily to say that you'll never get it. The vaccine is to help you so that if you do get it, that you don't go to the hospital, that you don't die, that it, hopefully and more than likely will protect you from experiencing permanent damage to your body, and you can make the best recovery that you can. Because I know, like, I see a lot of people out there, like, comments and everything, and I'm sure everyone is sick and tired of hearing about COVID-19. Trust me, I am too. I am so sick and tired of hearing about COVID-19, but I understand it's still very important right now to talk about it and to educate people and to make sure to get that information out there about how important it is to protect yourself, even if you're not necessarily going to get the vaccine, or if you don't have the resources to be able to get the vaccine, how to protect yourself. You know, constantly wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. Wear a mask when you're outside around other people and you can't stand, or be apart, like 6 feet apart. As well as, just try to be conscious and considerate to the people around you that they may or may not have a strong immune system, and that, this could be deadly to them. We will get through this, and we definitely are. It is showing, it is definitely prevalent in today's society that we as a country are going to get through this. We as a community, we as a world are going to get through this, and we definitely are. There's just a little bit more work that needs to be done, and it does ride on all of us doing our part. So, I guess the last thing I'll leave you off with is, obviously, if you suspect that you may have COVID, I know it's not great to sit in your house for 10 days, but if you suspect that you may have COVID, call your doctor and try to schedule an appointment. If you cannot get an appointment, have a healthy family member who can run out to the store for you, go get you an at-home test if there is one that you can buy at your local, like, pharmaceutical. And, follow those instructions and take that, because I know, like, my doctor said that they can take that as a positive test. Stay home. Rest when you're feeling tired, but if you can, try to get up and do light exercises. Don't overexert yourself, but just try to, walk around. One thing I did, and it kind of helped me out a lot, was that actually, like, I didn't have everything I needed, like my sick supplies. I didn't have it near me. I actually kept my tissues and hand sanitizer out next to my trash can. Obviously I live in an apartment, so it's kind of a small space, but it's like right off of my kitchen space. And so I kept my tissues there, so every single time I needed to blow my nose, I'd have to get up and go physically do it. The reason why was that my doctor even had told me this, to, make sure to do light exercises, to keep moving, even though you really don't feel like doing it. And it's because it does help your lungs. It helps build up the strength in your lungs. It helps build that stamina so that you make a better and faster recovery. On top of that, drink lots and lots of water. If you are not already getting, 8 cups, which I believe is 64 ounces of water, try your best to get, at least 64 ounces of water in you. I know for me, this whole experience, almost the whole 10 days, I had at least 64 ounces of water every day. Most days I was getting anywhere between 64 and 80 ounces. I think on my dieting app, it actually said that my average intake so far was, for the week, was 72 ounces. And trust me, I'm not a huge water drinker. I love my soda. But when you can't taste anything, why waste good soda? Why waste a good drink? Just have the drink that you can't taste anyways. If you are experiencing a fever, try to keep yourself as cool as possible. But, especially during the first couple days, don't be afraid to take cold medicine to help reduce your fever, such as Tylenol or ibuprofen, or any other fever-reducing medicine. Just because, obviously, again, the last place you want to be right now is the hospital. If you can deal with this at home, deal with it at home. you know, with the exclusion of if you really think that you are having a medical emergency, like something is absolutely wrong and you are like, I need medical assistance, this is really bad, then please by all means go to the hospital. Don't be a hero. If you can't drive yourself, call somebody, call the ambulance or something like that. Call a trusted family member and have them drive you. But let them know first that you're COVID positive and that maybe, put a barrier between you and them in the car. I don't know if that's necessarily the best advice, so probably don't follow that advice. But, if you are in a pinch and you need help or something like that, call the hospital, ask them to bring you an ambulance, or call a family member if you feel that it'd be safe to. And I guess the very last thing, because I don't think this necessarily gets told enough, especially for those that are sick and especially those with COVID, do what you can to keep your stress levels low. I know for me, a lot of my symptoms were actually affected by the fact that I was having pretty much anxiety attacks. My symptoms were made worse because I was very, very stressed out. Do what you can to keep your stress levels low. Even if it's just, I would just really love to watch that show, that I've been watching. That's about all the energy I have to do right now, but, it'll make me feel better. It'll make me, feel good. If it's, I just want some ice cream right now, have that ice cream. Like, do what you can to keep your stress levels down, but, do what you can to keep yourself healthy. And on top of that, of course, obviously, eat right, drink water, drink the right things if you can. But yeah, that's pretty much all the advice that I have. And of course, obviously, stay away from people. If you are sick, stay away from people. Don't go outside. There are plenty of resources that you can call upon to be able to get the resources that you need. There is no reason for you to be going out. For me, especially in this instance, family was such a big help. After they found out that I was positive for COVID, my aunt, I immediately got a text from my aunt who she didn't even like come out with and say like, oh, I heard that you have COVID. She was just like, I'm at the store, do you need anything? And very true, my aunt is like, she's kind of like my second mom in a sense. I asked for maybe like a couple things because I was like, oh, I don't have mayonnaise, so I need this for tuna fish sandwiches, and I don't have butter, and maybe I should get some more fruits and everything. And that's all I asked for. She came back with 3 bags of food. And she was like, I got you some of these and these and these and these. And I was like, I asked for 3 things. But way to go, Ani. So yeah, it was just a good experience all around. So, right now, especially now with, the holidays coming up, this is really to cement as well the fact of how important family is. Family is going to be for you, or family is going to be there for you no matter what. No matter how little you have or they have, no matter what you're going through, family is going to be there. And, when you really need help, rely on your family. That's what they're there for. That's what families do. They help each other in times of need. And I cannot thank my family enough for, the support and the resources and everything that they've, done for me. And I'm including my friends and everything in this whole thing. I've had coworkers that have helped me out as well, the ones that, I had let know that I was positive with COVID and that's why I was not feeling so well, as well as friends and everything. Just the amount of support that I got from everybody. These people are truly my family. These are the people that I would trust that, like, if I needed someone to have my back, these people are going to have my back, no matter what. I guess it turned a little bit into a PSA. Sorry. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you. I appreciate it. That's my TED Talk. Thank you for coming out. Take care of yourself, guys. I hope that you have a very safe and a very enjoyable holiday week, month. For those of you whose holidays already passed, I hope that you had a safe and happy holiday season. And yeah, I'll be sure to be getting more videos up very, very soon because now I'm finally got the energy to do so. I already put a couple videos out before this one, so feeling good. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!